Here's three major developments from Ethiopia. Welcome to Africa Frontline. The situation along the Ethiopia-Sudan border has entered a dangerous new phase after Kurmuk in Sudan's Blue Nile state was reportedly seized by forces linked to the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudan's People's Liberation Movement North. The offensive appears to have been launched from the Ethiopian side of the border after several days of reported artillery fire and drone activity. Local authorities in Kurmuk have accused Ethiopian-based forces of conducting strike against positions around the town before the ground assault. The development is significant because Kurmuk has changed hands during the conflict before. Forces opposed to the RSF and SPLM-N had recently pushed them out of the area, facing fighters to regroup across the border. Viewers, their return suggests that the border region is once again becoming an active military corridor. If Ethiopian territory continues to be used for military operations inside Sudan, the conflict could expand beyond Sudan's internal war. Khartoum could eventually respond against bases, supply routes or military infrastructure inside Ethiopia, creating a much wider confrontation along the border. Viewers, now let's move to the second development. Ethiopia has begun withdrawing troops from Brave area operations, including a reported withdrawal from a military base in southwest Somalia, raising questions about whether Addis Ababa is preparing for a border reduction of its military presence there. Ethiopian forces have spent years operating in Somalia as part of regional efforts against Al-Shabaab. But Ethiopia is now facing several security challenges closer to home, including fighting in Amhara, tensions around Tigray, and growing instability along the Sudanese border. A border redeployment from Somalia would allow Addis Ababa to concentrate more troops and equipment inside Ethiopia rather than maintaining forces across multiple foreign fronts. However, an accelerated withdrawal could create security problems from Somalia. Ethiopian troops have been involved in counter-insurgency operations, and any sudden reduction could place additional pressure on Somali forces in areas where Al-Shabaab remains active. For Ethiopia, the move may therefore represent a strategic decision to reduce overseas commitment and prepare for increasingly serious security challenges within and around its own borders. Viewers, now let's move to the third development. The Ethiopian government is also considering the release of a number of political prisoners and activists who have spent years in detention following the outbreak of the conflict between federal forces and Fano in Amhara region. The process reportedly involves discussions between the government and detainees, with the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission playing a role in facilitating the process. However, the proposed release comes with conditions. Some detainees are reportedly being asked to acknowledge their involvement in activities connected to armed opposition groups, condemn violence, and commit not to participate in similar activities in the future. Among those affected area, politicians, journalists, activists, and other prominent Amhara figures who were detained during the government's crackdown on suspected supporters of Fano. If implemented, the amnesty could reduce political tensions between Addis Ababa and sections of the Amhara political establishment, but the conditions attached to the releases could also generate controversy, particularly if detainees are effectively required to accept responsibility for allegations that they have previously rejected. The decision is therefore more than a prisoner released program. It could become part of a broader attempt by the Ethiopian government to reduce internal political pressure while it faces security challenges on several fronts simultaneously. Viewers, thanks for watching.